First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, appreciate you joining us wherever you're watching, whether that's on our apps, on our website, on our social media channels, lots of places to find us and interact with the show and joining the conversations that we get to have. And we're talking about something going on at the Oregon coast right now, Astoria specifically. Starting today, the Astoria International Film Festival is kicking off 3 days at least, and I think even more than that of celebrations that are going on for that, but films coming over there, and also a celebration of Vampira. Now, if you don't know who Vampira is, we're going to explain that during this interview. But to do that, let's go ahead and bring on our guest right now, the founder of the film festival, Ron Craig. Ron, thanks for being here. And, you know, for a lot of our interviews, for things like this, I always like to find out, like, the origin stories. So for you, Ron, you know, how does one end up in the founding of film festival business?
Well, I think with me, it got to be really a personal thing. I'm an Oregonian. And I think the idea of film festivals, it was always something that I say as in my early mid-20s and stuff, is seeing festivals and just kind of being mysterious about the whole thing is what it was about. And I'll be very frank with you, at 21 years of age, I'm sitting there in Paris celebrating my birthday as a baby boomer and stuff. And I'm looking there and seeing these film festivals in back alleys and stuff. And so it got me kind of curious early on. And at the same time, as far as being able to do it, it wasn't like I'm going to all of a sudden do this. And we know how things progress with, you know, as far as goals and within the arts community. And knowing that Astoria, like I said, being an Oregonian, was really an incredible place. And so we fast forward, you know, 16 years ago, as far as being able to do it, and knowing a lot of people being within the arts community that had, you know, shall we say, you know, independent films, and they just really fascinated me and stuff. And the idea of being able to showcase those, it just got my curiosity and stuff. And like I said, you know, here at Astoria, you know, oldest community, you know, as far as west of the Rockies and stuff, you know, or white community. So I've had to correct people on that because the indigenous people were here before we were.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's pretty much how I got going with it. Like I said, it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, were you involved in the film industry on that side of things?
Yes, I was. Like I said, what happened, like, so we say, go back a little bit, as far as finding a subject matter with anybody that's in the film industry and stuff, as far as for me, independent films and documentaries really got me because they were so curious. And I'm a curious sort of guy. And I got involved with the Lewis and Clark Trail Heritage Foundation, you know, back in the day when we were commemorating that. And so this being here in Astoria, once again, it's just kind of a point where, as far as Lewis and Clark, and I was able to get together, and I call it the Hollywood Shuffle. We put together about a 25-minute film on Lewis and Clark, and who was that black man standing next to Clark. And then we partnered with Oregon Public Broadcasting also to be able to do one, which was above the Hollywood Shuffle sort of syndrome and stuff. But for me, it was just sort of curiosity and knowing that he had so many, the roots that he had in this area, and people knew very, very, very little about who he was and what his contribution was. So there we go, as far as being able to put a documentary film together. So it's fascinating.
That's great, and telling a story, like you said, that people didn't know or were unaware of, and getting it out there and using film to actually do that was such a great way. And I can only imagine what the research was like for this too, for that particular documentary. I'm sure that's a lot of digging for information from something from, you know, a lot of research, I'm sure, went into that to figure that out.
So kind of the two sides of that. The idea, as far as research, you have to look at the fact of what was written about this guy as far as that history and stuff like that. If it wasn't written, then what do you do? And a lot of it was indigenous people, and we're talking about oral history and stuff. And so it was just me going around. I traveled up and down the trail about 7 times, something like that, to be able to do it. But like I say, with any documentary, whether it's Ken Burns or Ron Craig, you know, you want to be able to put it right down there and stuff. There's no challenge to it because, you know, the river is still flowing. This hasn't stopped.
Wow. Well, looking from that, you know, and then like we talked about, you know, kind of founding the film festival and going through there, talk about just Astoria. You know, you mentioned that Astoria is such a good place for it. And I think we all know, if at least if you're in Oregon in the Northwest, there are a lot of films that have been shot in Astoria, at least famous ones. I mean, there's the Goonie House, you know, and everything, the Goonies and all that. What is it that makes it such a good place for a film festival like this?
Well, I think overall, it's like film or music. Those people that are in that sort of industry and stuff, the spirituality of here, because they don't tear buildings down here in Astoria. And so knowing it's like buildings go around and stuff, and I tell people, yeah, this building's haunted, and look at me like, yeah, Ron. But it's from a historical perspective, and I think people are encouraged by that because I really believe like Astoria is becoming sort of this jewel in the crown as far as the culture, the history and stuff. It's not that it wasn't before, but we have, since we started the film festival, there's galleries all over the place, not overstating that. And there's a jazz festival here that's going on now and stuff. And it's just, like I said, at the point back in the time, you couldn't find, maybe one place to have a beer. There's microbreweries all over the place, which is a positive. And I think that's really interesting. And we have cruise ships that come in here now. And I work with the volunteers there. And the idea that I see people, and I'll say maybe 5% or 8% of the people come back, after a cruise because they're only here, 9 hours and then they take off. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing too. Just the cruise ships going in there and yeah, bringing all those people from wherever they came from, and like you mentioned, they're coming back there. And talking about the film festival too. I mean, it's international film festival, so I would imagine, I don't know how that ties in with the cruise side of things, but as far as bringing the international side into Astoria and exposing it to more people, can you kind of walk us through, how you go about that, how you go about deciding what's going to be there at the fest?
Well, typically, like I said, people always ask me, the day after the film festival, when do you look at these films? The day after the film festival for the next times around. And I think one of the things with me is the fact that we're on the Columbia River, and that is an international highway. And people have challenged me, how come you say international? I said, see that boat out there, where'd it come from? And so that's kind of the end of the conversation with that. At the same time, I think overall, from an artistic perspective in a film, to be able to for people to have access to international films, because we're not the only people in the hood, as far as from a global perspective. And like we have Hunger Ward, which is a Sky Fitzgerald film, and so it's just the fact of being able to see other areas and, at the same time doing something like, Some Like It Hot, okay, international. Well, it's just the idea of going across the board both ways and to be able to put that out there. Well, once again, as far as we said earlier, as far as a York film and stuff, nobody knew about it and stuff to be able to do that. And you sit being entertained by this. Next thing you know, whoa, I was educated. So that's a lot of fun for me, encouraging.
That's great. I accidentally got educated during that one. And that's but I mean that's the thing though. That's the beauty of having different kinds of films and getting that exposure to those too, especially for people there in Astoria, people coming from wherever that they're coming to the festival to get to see those kinds of things, and in a theater and an experience with other people as well. And like you mentioned, I'm sure there's all the breweries and everything else there in Astoria, so you go see a film, then go out and have a beer, end up talking about the movies. Which does make for a great setting there. Now, there's something else, too, that I wanted to bring up, and we're going to tell everybody about the film festival and how to go to it and all of that. But before we do that, there is also a celebration honoring someone who is from Astoria called Vampira. And for anybody who doesn't know, can you tell everyone who Vampira was?
Well, it's, for me, once again, it's one of those things because I always look at a lot of these stories as like a treasure hunt as far as different information. As far as her being here and her roots within the Finnish community, the Scandinavian community here and stuff, it's like, Ed Wood, okay, people, that's one of the worst films that have ever made and stuff. And for her to be connected with that, and I tell people the fact of her being there, she was there at the right time as far as the Hollywood. And I think that everybody has heard the whole story of, back in the day, well, what are you going to do when you grow up? I want to go to Hollywood. Well, she did it. And I think to be able to do that and was successful at it, and there's some, some bad things that happen with her. But so again, as well as I do, Hollywood's Hollywood. It's so not, as far as Walt Disney, however you want to look at it, its reality is not a fantasy as far as what people are getting involved with. But for her to bring that character out there, because she was able to, design that character, develop it, and be the character. And it's still going. And as well as I do, you get films out there that is the worst film that ever happened, and all of a sudden, not anymore. People are looking at it as sort of an incredible film that was out there and what it was all about. But for her personally, the people that she was associated with there during that time period, it's just, the people at that time were in the same park that she was in. But the fact that, she's taken advantage of and stuff as far as things in different areas. But she just fascinated me. And also the people here were just fascinated about it as far as knowing that her roots were here. Because I'll be very honest, a lot of people did not know that, but that's not unusual.
Yeah, and I didn't know that either. And I'm sorry, Vampira's real name. We just give that for everybody?
I can't even enunciate it now.
Okay, that's fine. People can look it up. Vampira nonetheless. So I do have some footage here just for context and reference from the Vampira show, 1954, which really, and I did a little bit of research after I knew I was going to have you on, just finding out more about it. And she was really at the forefront of this whole genre of introducing scary movies, which now seems like something that we've seen so many times over and over. But this is really one of the beginning, like she really started that. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, people always ask about her waist, and how she was able to present that. And with Ed Wood, she had dialogue actually for the film, and that he had written, and she refused to do it because she really didn't think the film was going to be that hot as far as the success of it. Because with anybody that's within the industry and stuff, you look at the different scripts that are out there for you, especially in those days. Well, I'll take this or I'll not take that. And so I think she made a decision not to, as far as having the dialogue that he's putting together. And I think at the same time, I don't know how it would have changed the forefront as far as the storyline of the film.
Yeah, but I mean, it became a huge success as far as what she was able to do then, and being so unique in that time period. And I think so for the honoring, for what's going to be going on there in Astoria. Can you talk about that? Like what's planned around that?
Well, what we're doing is on the 26th or the 27th of this month, we're going to have an event at the Liberty Theater where we're going to actually screen Plan 9. And with the idea, and it's a free festival, free experience for people to come there and see it. So her niece is going to be there, and as far as signing the books and all this thing going on. But what we do have is people being able to see the film and having a Q&A session. And then also Xanadu, which is a local, club here and stuff. And it's a gay-oriented club and stuff. And so it's just one of those things as far as, Scott, the owner, when I approached him about it, because we had tried to put together, the whole idea of doing a Vampira festival, but then the pandemic kind of shut us down and to be able to do it. So the idea of bringing that sort of thing together at their location, their bar there, as far as people dressing up, is what we propose to doing. And we're successful. It's moving along quite well. Dress up like Vampira, and we're having a contest as far as being able people to look at it and say, whoa, Vampira. And so from what I heard from Scott and stuff, people are, really enthusiastic about it. And once again, as you said earlier, as far as the people who don't know about Vampira, they're going to definitely know about her. And so I've had all kinds of people ask me, and says, well, what's the criteria? And I said, that's your homework. Go and look at it and see what she's about and stuff. I said, you don't have to, emulate or do her waist size and things of that nature. But to be able to sit there and watch the people dress up I think is great. And then having the film earlier, for me, the thing is like it's a free event, and so you have younger people that are going to be there and stuff, as opposed to being over at the tavern bar. As far as doing that, we get two different generations that are going to be able to experience it. And I think, as I said earlier, I think when you do documentary films like that, it's just really, really crazy of documentary approaches, because what we're looking to do, doing the fact of having the costume, is have in the background, as far as video, running the Vampira film in black and white as it originally was. And I think that's going to really encourage people like crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, especially in the timing of it as well. So that's, you said it's the 26th and 27th is when that's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. So for everybody, for the Vampira side of things, the 26th, 27th.
Yeah, the Vampira, the costume is going to be actually Halloween.
On Halloween.
Day, on 31st. Yeah, it'll be the Halloween, which is a Tuesday and stuff. And so, which for me, I thought that was so great to have it actually on Halloween.
Oh, yeah. It's perfect. Perfect timing. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that are happening that people can check out, but I do want to reiterate here for the Astoria International Film Festival. So that's kicking off. Oops, I'll get that on loop there. So that's starting today through the weekend. And for everybody who's heading out to Astoria, can you give them just an idea of what to expect and how the festival works?
Well, what's going to happen? We're at the Columbia Theater on the river, just one block from it in Pier 11. And what's so incredible, we open up on Friday at 7 o'clock, and the films that are going to be start with are going to be shorts, and they'll run about 2 hours. And what we'll do is be able to go look at those short films and stuff and have a Q&A session afterwards. And a number of the films, like I said, are local people that have been involved in these films. And like this is one of the points that I really enjoy doing, to be able to bring people that are local. And it's not local meaning they're not talented. It's just the idea of being able to do it in their own backyard. So I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, that's got to be amazing for them, being able to do it right there in town in Astoria.
Absolutely.
And showing that to everybody and having a chance for their work to be seen by so many different people. Well, Ron, I really appreciate you joining us here to talk about this. I'm glad we were able to get you on to talk about it. I'm sure you've got a lot of busy stuff that's going on here right now for this weekend. I can only imagine the amount of work it takes, but it's off and going, and appreciate you joining us. And anything else you want to let people know about as far as where they can go to find out more information?
Well, they can go to the website, is the Astoria International Film Festival website, and also as far as Facebook, they go on, and the Columbia, they're also there. The films are listed on there, and so they'll be good. And I want to back up for a minute. The reason I didn't enunciate as far as Vampira's name and stuff, it's almost comical and stuff as far as his jokes, as far as the Finnish community. So it was a joke. I don't mean to take it too seriously and stuff, but it's just one of those things that we, in the film industry, we get involved in. So.
Well, see, that's why I was tossing it to you, because I didn't want to mispronounce either. So.
Well, that's the thing about it. Like I said, it doesn't like, because people like go for a minute there. People, is it Sacagawea or is it Sacagawea? So we'll leave it at that and stuff. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, Ron, thank you very much for joining us. Congrats on this year's festival, and I hope it's a real huge success. And thanks for joining us here on Fox 12 Now.
Yeah, well, thanks to the Astoria community. We welcome you. Come on over.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for everybody who's joining us, again, this is Fox 12 Now. If this is your first time, thanks for being here. You can watch all of our interviews and our coverage on the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel, or you can download the Fox 12 Oregon app and click the Fox 12 Now button. So lots of places to find that stuff. We're live here every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific and then throughout the afternoon. Breaking news coverage, we'll bring that to you as well. But coming up later on today, we're going to have the Fox 12 podcast, Fox 12 Weather Podcast Video Edition. There we go. So the video edition, we get to actually watch them talk about the weather. And I believe they're talking about El Nino today. So that's going to be something you'll definitely want to check out. So wherever you're watching, that's where that will be. We're going to sign off for right now, though. We'll be back soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.